Good afternoon. It's Thursday, August 8th. I'm Herman Green with your midday news. A special welcome if you're watching online at onespotmedia.com. TVJ News has learned that a district constable attached to the St. James Police Division is now behind bars after being charged with raping a minor. The accused, 35-year-old Clevon Heavens of Farm Heights in St. James, was slapped with criminal charges on Tuesday following a ruling by the Director of Public Prosecutions, DPP. Mr. Haven reportedly surrendered to the police on Tuesday and was charged with grievous sexual assault and rape. He is the second member of the Area 1 Police to be charged with a sexual offense involving a minor. According to reports, the 13-year-old victim is a friend of one of the cop's relatives. Now, it's understood that the district constable built a friendship with the minor through social media. He reportedly met with the minor in downtown Montego Bay and took her to a secluded section of Kent Avenue where it's alleged that he forcefully sexually assaulted her. The matter was reported to the police and the child was taken to a clinic in Montego Bay where it was confirmed that she had been sexually molested. A file was then prepared and sent to the DPP, who ruled that District Constable Clevon Heavens should be charged. Prime Minister Andrew Holness says he's hoping the Integrity Commission will, by the end of this week, have his statutory deductions made public. He says if they don't, he might have to do it himself.
I think the public should bear in mind that the commission is a new commission. It is integrating several legacy agencies. It takes time for them to get their institutions together. So I think a little bit of patience should be exercised. I too would want to see things move a little faster, but by virtue of the information I have, the knowledge I have of the systems that are at work, I think that we should give them a little time to get their institutions in order. I'm hopeful that before the week is out, the Integrity Commission will make public my declarations. If not, I will have to possibly do it myself.
Now, the opposition PNP has threatened to take legal action against the Integrity Commission if they fail to make Mr. Holness's statutory declarations public. Meanwhile, as the deadline for the opposition's court action in lieu of the Prime Minister's statutory declarations draws near, the People's National Party continues to demand a statement. On Wednesday, Prime Minister Andrew Holness stated that the holdup in publishing his filings is with the Integrity Commission, as he has already handed in his declarations. However, PNP General Secretary Julian Robinson is questioning the circumstances surrounding the delay in its publication.
2 months ago, a member of the Integrity Commission had indicated in a press conference that there were issues with the Prime Minister's integrity report. Since then, nothing has been said. We believe the silence is unacceptable. We believe it is fueling speculation, and particularly within the context where, for the last 3.5 years, you have had a number of incidents of corruption, nepotism, and cronyism. Two ministers of government have been fired. It is important, imperative for the Integrity Commission to speak.
Mr. Robinson says he does not buy the position that the law restricting the Commission's members on commenting on cases is valid in the current situation with the Prime Minister.
And I don't think the restrictions in the law would prevent the Integrity Commission, for example, for saying, we asked for additional documents, we have asked additional questions, what has been provided is not satisfactory, we are doing more investigation, something of that sort. But I believe to remain silent is totally unacceptable, and I believe it is going to further diminish confidence in the effectiveness of the Integrity Commission itself.
To improve Jamaica's ranking on the World Bank's Ease of Starting Business Index, the government yesterday launched its electronic business registration form. Director General at the Public Sector Transformation and Modernization Division, Venice Pottinger-Scott, says it will reduce the time it takes to register a business.
No more visits to the NIS office, the TAJ office, the NHT's office, all of those things before you can get to register your company. The technology will allow us to prevent and remove those kinds of delays.
Chief Executive Officer at the company's Office of Jamaica, Judith Ram-Logan, says more improvements will be announced.
The COJ will now, with the strong support of the government of Jamaica, particularly the Ministry of Finance, enter into the next phase by seeking to introduce other electronic forms, such as the annual returns form and change forms. This should go a long way in assisting customers to become more compliant with their statutory obligations.
The company's Office of Jamaica estimates that the registration of a business name accounts for 77% of the transaction. Jamaica is ranked 6th on the World Bank's Ease of Starting Business Index. And we now take a break here on the Midday News, but stay with us. We have more stories after these messages. Welcome back, continuing the news. As the race for the PNP presidency intensifies, questions have been raised about what it will take to reunite the party after the election on September 7. Speaking at a press briefing staged by the Rise United camp yesterday, Mark Golan said the rebuilding of the party must be done in a deliberate way.
It has to be a deliberate and focused effort on re-engaging, finding common cause, recognizing the ultimate prize, which we are both committed to, both sides, and healing whatever offended feelings there may be. It's a competitive process that we're in. So on the field of play, in the squad match, there will be the occasional tackle that should have been a little, more gentle perhaps, although both sides have committed to rules which say we won't be doing anything to injure each other in any way, verbally or otherwise.
Presidential challenger Peter Bunting added that once that's done, it will allow the party to pull together towards a common objective.
And people don't just unite for unite's sake. They need a transcendent purpose that supersedes whatever the individual petty issues are and allows them to pull together towards a common objective. And that is what I think will be important for us, to have a vision that everyone buys into and that allows them to put aside the smaller things.
In the meantime, the results of the Don Anderson poll, which was commissioned by the Rise United camp of Peter Bunting, is not sitting well with Dr. Peter Phillips's One PNP camp. According to Dr. Phillips' camp, its decision to commission a poll carried out a few days ago and to release the findings is in response to the lies being told by the Rise United camp based on its poll in July. The Rise United camp released its findings of the Don Anderson Commission poll yesterday, which among other things indicated that 36% of Jamaicans believe the PNP under Mr. Bunting's leadership stands a better chance of defeating the Jamaica Labour Party in the next general elections. That's compared with 16% who believe Dr. Peter Phillips has a better chance. PNP Vice President Senator Damian Crawford outlined one of the issues it sought to have responded to in its August 2-4 poll.
They have been selling a lie that Peter Phillips couldn't win an election. Their own poll suggests that that is not true. So our poll suggests that is not true. And so therefore, that to put out a disclaimer against what has been catching some level of traction on the ground, we decided to do a poll ourselves because we argued within our team that the questions that they asked and how it was asked was actually skewed and invalid.
Mr. Crawford is also claiming that there were other polls done by Mr. Bunting which were not in his favor.
What we know is that there was a poll done initially by Rise United, which showed 12% for Peter Phillips. There's a poll now that is showing that Peter Phillips is growing. There's a poll that Mr. Bunting cannot communicate what was his initial number, because when they did more than who people thought should be next, he was about 5th on the list. And yet he decided he's the person best able. So they use polls, as I said, for their benefit, and by extension to put a disclaimer. If there is no lie told, then there will be no disclaimer necessary.
But you're also using the poll to your benefit.
As a disclaimer.
Speaking on Power 106 FM's Morning Agenda, campaign manager Dr. Dayton Campbell said the results from the polls are favorable, but it shows that more work is needed.
The Labour Party is still 5% ahead, so we know that even though we have an eye on that election, we know that the priority at this time is to convince the delegates to vote for Comrade Peter Bunting to be the leader of the party. And then after that, we know that we have a task on our hand to ensure that we can take the PNP to be the government of this country. And so we like the results because they're positive for us, but we're not necessarily satisfied and relaxing and becoming complacent based on that.
Agriculture Minister Audley Shaw says the nutrition of the nation's children must be taken more seriously. Addressing the recent Denby Agriculture Show in Clarendon, he pointed out that the country is spending millions to import products to facilitate the National School Feeding Program. He insists that that should not be the case.
We are feeding them with a genetically modified food that is not healthy for them anyway. And we can feed them and must feed them with what we grow here, which is nutritionally better for them.
Mr. Shaw said he is positive that a modern school feeding program can be established locally, which would be more viable. In that regard, Mr. Shaw says he visited the Food and Agriculture Organization in June to seek assistance.
Mr. Moreira is here to work with us to develop, you know what we call it? They have a book printed with the title on it, Homegrown School Feeding Program. You hear that? We feed our children, make them nutritionally better off, learn better in school, and at the same time, we are creating wealth among our small farmers, 230,000 of them across the length and breadth of Jamaica.
Vice Principal of Hazard Primary School, Dr. Sonia Thomas, is calling for a name change of the Clarendon-based institution. According to Dr. Thomas, the school was once a hazardous environment to students and teachers due to poor infrastructure. But recently, the JN Foundation has done several rehabilitation works which makes the environment safer, especially for students. She was speaking at a recent stakeholder ceremony held at the school.
Now that Jamaica National is on board and have done such a job to Hazard Primary, do you think we can continue to call the school Hazard? Do you think so? I do not think so. It is hazard on paper, but it is no longer hazardous because of the intervention.
We go on to sport. At sports time, the West Indies are 9 without loss against India in their first of 3 one-day internationals at the Guyana National Stadium in Province. Jamaican Chris Gayle, 3, and Evan Lewis, 4, are the batsmen at the crease as a wet outfield has caused a break in play. The game has been reduced to 40 overs per side because of rain. The West Indies playing 11 reads Chris Gayle, Evan Lewis, Shea Hope, Shimron Hetmar, Nicholas Puran, Roston Chase, Jason Holder, Fabian Allen, Carlos Brathwaite, Kemar Roach, and Sheldon Cottrell. And that's all the time we have for Midday News. I'm Herman Green. Please join us at 7 for the Primetime News Package. On behalf of the News, Sports and Production teams, good afternoon.